Will Shaw had no idea what his overdependence on his cell phone would lead to when he was about to spend a few days at sea, losing his father, his company, and his health, and getting a lot of enemies, shootings, and a new sister in return. It was obviously not what the young man had in mind when packing his suitcase. Will Shaw, a young businessman, flies to Spain to spend his vacation with his family. At the airport, the guy is met by his father, the art critic Martin, with whom Will has always had a complicated relationship. On the way to the yacht, the men already start quarreling because Will spends all his time on the phone. On the dock, a guest is met by Lori. His mother and the extended family head out to sea, hoping for a carefree vacation. In the evening, the family gathers around the same table, but Will keeps getting distracted by phone calls, annoying his father. Eventually, the boy has to confess that his company went bankrupt a few hours ago. The next day, Martin takes the boat out to the open sea, hoping to interest his sons in it, but Will does not let go of his cell phone. And this leads to the fact that during a small jolt, Dara, his brother Josh's girlfriend, gets hurt. Angry at his son, Martin throws the phone into the water and demands that his son save his problems for later. To cool off a bit, the boy leaves the boat and heads into town. Meanwhile, Martin notices a strange boat circling their yacht since the morning, and the head of the family's suspicions are not empty. Back on shore, Will notices that their boat is nowhere to be found. Attempts to find out something from the fishermen and vacationers are unsuccessful, so the guy has to go around the coast to finally find the boat in an empty lagoon. The boat itself turns out to be empty, too, and Will realizes that something terrible has happened to his family. The businessman gets to the local police department, where at first they pay no attention to him. But as soon as the chief of the department hears the guy's last name, the cops start making a big fuss. By evening, a detachment of cops with Will arrives at the place where the yacht is anchored, but the guy notices that something goes wrong. The cops behave strangely, and a stranger is already waiting on the shore for Will, to whom he is going to be handed over. Sensing that he is in danger, the younger Shaw escapes from the cops, and getting to their car, he tries to hide. But they quickly catch up with him, and the businessman has to endure beatings, which could have ended badly if Martin had not suddenly appeared nearby. The old man drives his son away from the scene of the altercation, telling him along the way that he is not really an art historian but a CIA agent who has served the government for some 20 years. And now his family has been kidnapped because of one stolen CIA item. Martin's phone rings, and a certain Carrack makes an appointment for him despite the late hour. But before doing so, the men stop by Will's unfamiliar apartment where Martin turns out to have a good supply of guns. Before meeting with Carrack, Shaw leaves a message for a certain Diego. Meanwhile, somewhere in a secluded place, a sniper prepares a rifle to meet the agent. Martin tells his son that Carrack is his friend, but also that he doesn't want Will to stick his neck out, and he asks the kid to stay in the car. The agent himself meets with a colleague, urging her to return the stolen suitcase to the men who kidnapped his family, and Carrack promises his buddy he'll think of something. But as soon as he gets back to the car, the sniper pulls the trigger. Will doesn't realize anything. The old man falls right in front of him, and before the witness is shot, he only has time to grab his phone and gun and run away. Having answered the phone, Will hears the voice of the kidnappers, who, for some reason, call his father Tom. But now the guy has no time to deal with it. He has to become a part of the shooting, in which a cop is killed, and the whole unit of mounted police joins the next criminal. Hiding in an outdoor toilet, Will tries to catch his breath and figure out what to do next. The guy gets an idea to ask for help from the embassy, and for this, he attacks the guard. But the conversation with the special agent comes to nothing. The embassy declares that no Martin Shaw worked for them. In addition, Will learns that he is accused of murdering a police officer, and all that the embassy can help him is to provide an independent lawyer who will represent his interests. The counselor's mood changes after the phone call. He asks Will to come downstairs where he is expected. The businessman is met by mercenary Jean Carrack, who asks the guy to get in the car. In order to remove suspicion, she describes to Will such details of his childhood that his father could only tell his close friends. The woman makes no secret of the fact that Martin was killed on her orders, but she assures Will that the old man left her no choice. He wanted to betray the country, and she had to stop him. Carrack's questions put the boy on edge, and he pretends to feel bad, thanks to which he manages to escape. Trying to stay out of sight of the patrol cops, Will enlists the help of a stranger who pays for him on the bus and goes to who knows where to take a little break. At this time, Martin's phone rings, and the kidnappers remind him that they are waiting for the old man's suitcase, and even the fact that he is murdered does not change the terms. Otherwise, the kidnapped family will be destroyed. In the call log, Will notices the number of Diego, whom Martin has called most often, and taking a chance, the guy decides to ask for help. He arrives at the specified address, but there a killer is already waiting for him, and the guy has to save himself again, and this time also save the young girl Lucia, who does not trust any of the men. Will explains to the girl that her uncle Diego is in danger, and they go to his house, but it proves to be too late. Martin's friend is already dead, and in the apartment, the couple hears voices of strangers. The guests turn out to be Karak and her faithful mercenary. Just as they are discussing Will and the need for his death, the guy enters the kitchen and takes the criminals at gunpoint. Will tries to learn the details of his family's kidnapping, but an enraged Lucia spoils the conversation, and Karak manages to get a gun. The young men have to escape through a rooftop exit and climb down on wires to save their lives. The locals help Will up after a hard fall, and he walks away again, making Karak very angry about it. She stalks the couple, trying to eliminate an unnecessary witness, but each time something prevents her from doing so. Lucia notices her boyfriend has a bullet wound, and she brings him to her friend's studio. The guy passes out from the pain, but the girls manage to stitch him up. When Will wakes up, Lucia wants to know what he got her into. When she sees a picture of the boy's father, she is greatly surprised and says that she knew Tom well and doesn't understand why Will calls him Martin. The businessman suspects that the young beauty was his father's mistress, but Lucia admits that Martin was also her father. He had an affair with her mother. Will asks his new sister to escort him to the place where he meets his kidnappers, and all the way, he tries to find out details about his father's affairs. Will refuses to go with him because he thinks it would be dangerous, so Lucia gives him the address of a club where he can find her after he meets the bandits. At the specified location, a stranger approaches the guy in the guise of a tourist, who orders him to follow him. In the car, Will is disconnected, and upon coming to, he finds himself in a room where his family is being held hostage. After some serious explaining, the leader of the captors explains to the guy that he needs the suitcase, which Karak now has. He promises to let his family go if Will leads the gang to his father's killer, and helps get the valuable item back. Otherwise, everyone will be punished, but even if he doesn't, Karak will destroy all the Shaws to get rid of the witnesses. The guy gets thrown out of his car outside of town and walks to the club, where Lucia is waiting for him. At the entrance, a battered Will gets into trouble with the security guards, but when he tells them who he's visiting, the guest is escorted straight to the girl. Will tells Lucia and her friends about the gang's plan in which he will become a plant duck and lead the gangsters to Karak, and the whole company is going to help the guy to avenge the death of Diego and free Lucia's new brother's family. The young men use a credit card, knowing that Karak will use it to find them quickly. And so it goes, the agent's mercenary turns up at the club, and Lucia's friends invite him in for a chat. Even Will joins the conversation, beating all the information he needs out of the bodyguard. Finally, leaving the mercenary behind, Will orders his friends to let him run away so he can follow him and get out to Karak. The mercenary actually turns out to be so stupid that he leads Will right to the underground parking lot where the suitcase transfer deal will take place. The young men are joined by members of the gang, hoping to intercept the case. One of the guys gets right into Lucia's car, warning her that they're on her side, while the other tries to talk Will into going somewhere safe. But the guy doesn't agree to back down until he knows where his family is. The argument causes the men to behave very noisily, and Karak hears that someone is following them. After eliminating her partners, she takes the suitcase and tries to escape. A firefight ensues, and at one point, Will has a chance to retrieve the briefcase. But while he saves Lucia and gets rid of the mercenary Karak, the agent picks up the lost item and leaves, sadly looking at the lost faithful dog. Will chases Karak across town, demolishing everything in his path. After a long chase, the guy tries to ram her car, but the agent manages to pull away and the young people fly into a glass window. The distraught Karak opens fire on civilians, and when Will tries to escape, the opponents switch roles. Now the agent is chasing the annoying guy. Realizing that he can't get away, the businessman cuts off his rival's car and it flips over. The guy himself ends up on the roof as well. Karak enjoys watching the injured Will get out of the car, while Lucia does not come to her senses at all. The villainess is sure that this is the end of it. The guy has no chance to get the suitcase and save his family, and in general, she is going to get rid of him. But at that moment, somebody shoots Karak and Will sees a lot of armed men appearing around, among whom the guy recognizes the main kidnapper of his family. Taking the young men and the suitcase from the scene, the group disappears before the police arrive, leaving only Agent Karak's body on the ground. The boy is brought to his family's hangar, and on the way, the bandit tells him that Martin was a fine agent. Oh, He would have been proud of his son. Outside the hospital building, Will meets with a secret agent who returns the guy's papers and invites him to replace his father in the CIA service. The businessman refuses the offer, but he is curious to know what it was all about and what was kept in the briefcase. Unfortunately, no one can tell the common man about it. The guy tells Josh about Lucia, offering to meet his new sister. Lori also stays at the girl's bedside so she doesn't feel alone in such a large family.